Very true.
I'm recording. So thank you, Maurice, for being here tonight. I created Envision Your Vision interviews last year. I have a blog called My Art of Vision. It's a blog where I talk about life, vision, faith. And one day I just decided, you know what? I want to give people a example. Like, how do certain people envision their vision? How do they take what they imagine and actually start working towards it? And I know some people are scared to walk out and be purposeful. So I was like, you know what? Let me just interview people that I know who's kind of stepping out on faith, just stepping out on the willpower of just, grinding in order to get what they want. So that's why I really wanted to interview you, especially, it's so funny because I was looking online and I know you were doing the art pieces. I know that's something that you were doing, but it seemed like it was more robust now. It seemed more like, okay, this is what I do. This is who I am. So when I noticed that, I was like, all right, I got
Sure.
So that's why I was like, all right, we got to talk. And for whoever ends up watching this video, I want you guys to know that I actually know Maurice from college. He went to FAMU, okay? So we're both rattlers, and we were both in the architectural program. So before I get all into that, for people who don't know you, please let us know a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So like you said, my name is Maurice Noisette. So I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. Went to FAM, like you said, once I got done with high school. Was in the architecture program. From there, I went and did my master's at FIU down in Miami. And then from there, started my architecture career out in Seattle. So I moved from Miami out to Pacific Northwest, and I've been out there ever since, working on architecture, environmental graphics, and art. Is kind of what all I've been doing the past 5 years.
Wow. So we kind of have like the same and similar background and story. But, even though we can have the same background as far as our schooling, it doesn't mean we're going to end up doing the same thing. So I do want to kind of touch a little bit about design, graphics, art. What do you think was the thing that motivated you, first of all, to even get into architecture?
Really, art was really kind of the main thing. It's kind of been always been around, really. My God-given talent, if you want to call it that. I never really took any, too many art classes outside of school. It was always just something I did, drawing in my notebooks. I always had more drawings than I did actual notes, which probably got me in trouble. But yeah, it's always been around. And actually I took a engineering course in high school, I think my junior year.
Yeah.
And I always, I still wanted to do, the art thing, and architecture seemed like a good balance between the two, because math and, physics and everything was not my strong suit at all.
Right.
So engineering was a little too heavy on the math side for me. So I leaned more towards architecture. That way I had a good balance of it. I could still use my, creative side of my brain, but also, it's a good, seemed like a good technical job that, was always needed.
Right.
So I felt like, that was kind of the path that I wanted to go on coming out of high school.
I think sometimes what they kind of set us up for when it comes to the whole architecture thing is the fact that we love designing, but then it's like the first thing someone tells you is like, well, art ain't gonna make you no money. That's a hobby. Don't do that. Or, you got to find something where you kind of love it, but then it has to be practical, where you can have the 401k and benefits and all that stuff.
Right.
So I feel like for some, I don't, this is not going to be the story for a lot of people, but we get into these majors and we get into them with these hopes and then with these expectations, and now we get into the real world. So I kind of want to touch about the real world, but before we get into that, going from high school to college and now the real world of what that looks like, is there anyone that you looked up to in architecture, looked up to just as far as a push, someone that motivated you, just someone where it's like, I want to be like that person, or that person is the one who's just been with me, that's been like, you got this, whoever you want to kind of give that recognition to?
Well, as far as the field goes, a big name around Charleston was always Harvey Gantt, who was also, I believe, if not the first, one of the first Black architecture graduates from Clemson. So his name gets thrown around a lot because he actually designed Burke High School, where my grandmother used to teach, and I have family members that went to school there. And when they got a new school, he was the one that designed it. Well, his firm. So that was kind of a big name that was always thrown out locally coming out of high school. I didn't really know too much about the history of it, for lack of a better word. I wasn't too big on knowing a whole lot of names. I just knew his name and a couple others that were from the area, and eventually got to meet some of them. One guy, a guy named Charles Hudson, he owns a firm out here. He acted as kind of like a mentor role. Not so much coming out of high school, probably more so moving into grad school. But as far as the field goes, there weren't a whole lot of names that I pull from, because nobody in my family actually is an architect. We have a couple engineers, but for the most part, my family is all educators. Teachers, administrative people, business people, or some form of sports management. That's what I thought I was going to do early in high school. I was going to
change the mode.
Yeah. I really wanted to be a general manager for a sports team at one point. That's like all I wanted to do. And then, they kind of preach to you, like you said, they preach to you the practicality, and they, I had the passion for art. So, but as far as my family goes, really just everybody, kind of leaned in on what it is I wanted to do. They knew I had the, skills as far as art. When I mentioned wanting to do architecture, they were like, "That's what you got to do. Like, go do it." So
they did the same to me.
Right. It's like they're all in it. They're all in on it. So. Like my mother was, a really big motivator. My grandfather, before he passed, definitely was a huge motivating factor in going to FAM, and also sticking with architecture, because I actually even thought about, moving on from it in college at one point.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, good. So I want to switch gears a little bit since we're talking about envisioning your vision. I want to get your opinion on what do you believe vision is? And my tidbit I'm going to give is that vision is the ability to see past what's before you. It's very strategic. It's very specific. You can't say something vague. That means you know exactly where you're going, you know exactly what you need, and you make a plan to get there. So with that being said, what would you say is your definition of vision?
Oh man. I think it's you just kind of know, I guess I wouldn't say maybe your purpose, but I guess, well, for me, art has, like I said, always been around. It's always been kind of like this grounding factor, whether or not I dove into it completely or I just came back and forth.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of, I would say my vision for it is kind of like that thing that you can't live without, that you're going to always come back to. Like, regardless of where my art career takes me, I think it's always going to be something that I come back to. So I know that, a lot of times the question I've gotten often has been, what do you see as your end goal for it? And I was like, well, I don't see an end goal. Like, I honestly see myself doing this until I leave this earth.
Wow.
So it's whether it's something I do casually or whether it takes off and leads me to other things. I think art is always going to be something I come back to.
Oh, I like that. I like that you said it's something that you can't live without. It's usually, a lot of people say that's your passion. And with that being said, even though it's a passion, the vision can still shape like, okay, I want to take this thing that I love so much and go somewhere with it and get something out of it. So now that you are working on, more so on your art, do you have a vision for that? But you know what? Don't even answer that. Don't answer that. Okay. So before we even had this interview, we were talking about, where you stay now and just work and everything that's going on with COVID. So if you don't mind, bringing up everything that's happened and then how you kind of had to catapult back into art and
Yeah,
how
sure.
you had to do it all over, not do it all over, but kind of make it more full time.
Yeah, sure. So just going back, even before COVID, I had kind of got the itch to, um, you know, give pursuing art more time, if not full time. The hard part is always trying to balance, your passion with your career if it's not one and the same.
Yeah.
So like for a lot of people, I had a normal 9 to 5 job that I would go to, and then 5 to 9, I was trying to work on my art. So when COVID hit, like millions of other people, I ended up being laid off in April and kind of, got pushed off the plank, so to speak, in terms of, working on my art full time, because it was, like I said, it was there for me, as an outlet, something to keep me busy.
Yeah.
Something that I could make money off of, given, whatever circumstances, if people decide they want to, become patrons or not. But it was really just something that I think, gave me some kind of silver lining,
Yeah.
when everything happened. So, though, losing my job and everything and having to navigate, okay, how do I pay for this? How do I pay for that? It really was like that thing where, it's like, I'm right here. Like, if art was this little thing on my shoulder, it was kind
Yeah.
of like, hey, you could do this. So I kind of use that negative, thing, with losing my job and everything. I kind of used that as, the time for me to say, you know what, it's not going to be a better time than any to try to pursue my art full time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what I've been doing, ever since April. This has been the first time, I think, ever really, where I've been able to dedicate 100% of my time to my creative process.
Really good.
So it's been some ups and some downs, but, it's kind of cliche. People would say all the time, if you love it, it doesn't feel like work. And it honestly feels like that. Even if I do, have something that, requires a deadline, or I'm trying to get, some kind of submittal out.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily feel like work, but, it was really fulfilling at a time where, I was able to kind of channel, my lows and my highs into something, positive.
I want to just unpack a few things that you said, because you said a lot of really good things. Like the first thing that kind of stuck out to me was the fact that you said you didn't use this time to look at a negative, like you still was able to do something and find the positive. There's a lot of people who are on the bad spectrum of what's going on with COVID, and some of them don't see what to do. Like all they see is an obstacle. All they see is this big old mountain in front of them. And they're like, okay, how am I going to pay my bills? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And the fact that the art that you had was always there, to the point where it was the foundation of why you even got into architecture. So even when the job left, the foundation never left. So you were still able to go back to that. And when you said that, I can appreciate that. And then on top of that is, sometimes I feel like God could do two things, let you make your choice or push you. So I feel like with you kind of got pushed. It's like, okay, I ain't got the job. I have no excuse. And now I have all the time in the world. And even like you said earlier to me, is that you have a support system too. So now you have the opportunity to kind of build what you really love. And now there's nothing really stopping you. If we're gonna be real, there's nothing stopping you to get it to where you want it to be. So I really like that, you're looking at a positive, and not a lot of people know how to do that. And with that being said, now the question I had to stop myself was, what is your vision right now for your art? And before I keep just calling your art, what is the proper business name?
So I go by the moniker Mo Noise. Is my artist name, I guess, if you want to call it, simple, just a combination of my first and last name. So everything with my art, whether, whatever I sign or any kind of tags, you'll see it's always Mo Noise. But I'm, more so a visual artist. So whether that's painting, hand drawing, digital media, everything.
Yeah. So then my thing is, if you can do this forever, let's just say there is no going back to a 9 to 5. This is what you're going to do. If you really feel like this is what you can die doing, maybe it's exactly what God put you here on earth to do. What would you say is the vision that you have for Mo Noise? Like, what can you see yourself doing with Mo Noise?
Yeah. Man, really, really a little bit of everything. More specifically, I would love to be able to get to the point where I'm showing my work in large museums. Is definitely a goal of mine. Kind of work my way up. I've done showings at different art galleries before. So, taking those baby steps going up. But I would love to be able to show my work at, like the Seattle Art Museum, for one. Does a lot of big showings, maybe even the MoMA down the road. So I would love to be able to do a lot of different gallery and museum showings. Is definitely a long-term goal of mine. As well as being able to, I think, collaborate with different brands. I have a passion. I love sports, and a lot of different sports brands. It seems like now, and clothing brands tap into, different artists, different types of artists, and do collaborations. So I would love to do something like that.
And I saw what you were doing the other week with the shoes. So I was like, ooh.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to, even if it's just like, a temporary thing, a contract thing, whatever the case being, I would love to do something like collaborate with a different brand, or maybe even, build something else with, collective of people. I'm really just kind of keeping my options open right now. I think the clear vision I have is to just keep getting better every day and try to figure out, what my style is. It seems like a lot, the trend is like, a lot of artists have like a certain style. Like when you see something, it's this artist. So I'm working my way there right now. Just trying to figure out what that is, how I can convey that message, whether it's a certain theme or, the way I draw something. So as the more I do it, the more it's becoming, a little more clear. But for me, it's just trying to get better every day. Whatever I get my hands on, really, I'll do it. Whether that's the shoes, whether it's clothing, painting, drawing, graphic design. I love doing album covers. I've always loved doing album covers.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. A friend of mine who is an artist based out of Atlanta, I've done a couple art covers for him for a couple different singles that he has. So I'd love to be able to just, get to the point where I can just collaborate with a lot of my different, my favorite musical artists too, and be able to put something together for them, whether it's, album covers, merch, anything really.
There was something you said, and I can't say verbatim, but you said something to the nature where the more you do it, the more it becomes part of you. And I think people who are listening to this should realize at the end of the day, we don't really know sometimes. Some of us, we get a vision real early on, and you already like, day one, I know what God put me here on earth. I know exactly what I'm supposed to do it. And a lot of us, we kind of have to navigate differently. So we can't really have a scale for each person because we all different. We all start
Yeah.
at a different point. But the one thing that I want people to realize is that, first of all, everyone should have a vision, period. Because if you go into every situation and you let life make those choices for you, that is your choice. You're making the choice not to make the choice. So the fact that you said the more and more you kept doing it, it's like you're still allowing yourself to grow into that skill set, whether it's part of your purpose, whether it's part of passion, or it's just skill set, you're still allowing yourself to figure you out in the process. And I think it's better because for someone who's also in the same position as you, we literally went to the same schools, we both like design. We went in this idea of a 9 to 5 because that's what society told us to do. Society told us that this was the right thing for us. And exactly. I'm pretty sure now you get, let me know. Have you ever felt yourself at work and all you're thinking about is, that job you're commissioned for? You found yourself at your job and you're just like, man, I need to hurry to get off because I want to finish this. And definitely. That's what I'm saying. It's like, even though we went to school for this and it may not be something that we realize that is something for us, I think it still helped us build skills, Photoshop, all this other stuff. And definitely. Then also created more opportunity, relationships, stuff like that. So I just want people to realize that even if what you have right now, you've already realized, all right, this ain't it, I'm done. But you still got to keep going through the process. You still got to keep doing what you got to do because that's how we find out where we're going, So
right. Exactly. So just to touch on what you said, I did find myself in that boat where I wasn't really sure where it's going. I still don't know. Nobody can tell the future. I really don't know where it's going. But I think for me, what I try to tell myself is just to stay ready. And one of the ways I can stay ready is by, just working on whatever it is that I decide to do that day, whether it's, shoes or graphics or painting, just try to keep that, train running, just trying to keep that going. Cause like you said, I was, sitting at, my architecture job and, I'm thinking, I'm off in La La Land thinking about what I'm going to paint, or I'm sketching, I'm taking notes in my, notebook in architecture, but I'm also like,
you're supposed to be doing a submittal.
Yeah, in the back of it, I'm sketching out ideas. So I think one of the things that also helped me because, everybody, everybody wants to make money off of their passion, but it's not always going to come right away. So one thing I've had to learn is really just taking a step back and being patient. Because it's for people listening, you're in this boat now where you don't know where that next check is coming from, and you're trying to figure out, how to navigate all these different bills and responsibilities that you have. So I definitely understand where they're coming from. But I think one of the things that helped me, especially when I started doing environmental graphics, was I started looking at my job just almost like being in school. Rather is, being in school where I actually get paid to go to class. So I started trying to, when I transitioned out, I tried to find jobs where I knew that the skills that I learned there, I could take those and apply it to my art. So like you said, with the learning Photoshop and Illustrator, InDesign, things like that, I started kind of looking at it at school. I mean, in the process, I did find things that, I liked and that I didn't mind doing, having a 9 to 5, I kind of looked at it as a way to even fund the art, when the money was slow. It was a way for me to keep buying materials or to do promotions or buy, flyers to hand out, things like that. So I started kind of looking at it as like, okay, I can kind of use it to my advantage rather than like, all right, it's just a job that I got to go to every day, 5 days a week. It is hard to find a balance, I will say, because there are going to be times where you have to spend more time on your job rather than, your passion until you get to that point where, you can fully fund everything from whatever it is you want to do.
I gotta say this because you said two things. Listen, it'd be so hard for me to just listen and not
Yeah.
interrupt because I feel like, dang, when you said I gotta stay ready, I need people to get that because
Yeah.
here's the thing: if someone said if you were not ready with no portfolio, no back work, somebody's like, hey, you can do this for me, and then they're like, oh, can I see what kind of work you do? You're not ready. You know what I mean? So sometimes we be thinking like, oh no, I gotta leave my job. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. No, I gotta, yeah, my passion. I love it. I'm ready. But then it's like no one can trust you with their work because you're not ready. And then the other thing that you said is that you looked at work as a class that you're getting paid for. I just recently tried to wrap my mind around that. Because my husband had to get on me. He's like, you can't keep thinking about it as every time you're pissed, I want to leave my job. Every time they make you mad, I want to leave my job. And he's like, you have to look at it as there's something right now that you have to learn before you go to the next step. And nobody want to believe that there's something to learn from jobs. Let's call it what it is. Everybody want to be like, I hate my job. I want to be an entrepreneur. But let's be real. You were doing environmental, right? Environmental design?
Yeah,
environmental I'm sure graphics, you picked up some skills that you never thought that you could probably even use in your art.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Even administrative stuff. You know what I mean? Like, hey, how do we do stuff when it comes to talking to clients and dealing with money? Everything that at your job you could learn from it. But if you look at every situation, you'd be like, nah, I'm not check exclusive. You're not gonna be able to find like real balance and what's the word? Integrity in the things that you do. So that was a good point.
Yeah. And just to touch on that point, I would say, I was one of those people. I'm not going to sit up here and act like, I had it all figured out because I didn't. I think one of the things, that 2020 like forcefully taught me was exactly how unready I was.
Wow.
Because when you get wrapped up in your job and, I'm the same way and you're trying to, do your, your thing on the side as well, you get so wrapped up in the day-to-day tasks that you have that you don't think about like, having a portfolio ready or updating, for me, updating my website.
Yeah.
Or
even posting on social media.
Right. Or even posting on social media. And I'm one where like, if I wasn't doing art, I probably wouldn't have social media or I would be on it barely at all. So it's just kind of, realizing that, if if you're ready, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, one of those kind of things. But also, I would say you don't have to have it all figured out at once. It's okay to, do it gradually and do it step by step, as long as whether you're like doing it once a week, every other day. As long as you keep kind of working at it, you're going to get better. Just the more repetition you have, the better you're going to get at something. It's just how things work. So yeah, I definitely, 2020, losing my job and everything is like, okay, this is the time for me to slow down, because I was, on go mode 24/7. If I wasn't working on the weekends, I was trying to do, my art thing, or some weekends I wouldn't do anything at all. So, and I felt like I was kind of getting behind on it. So I would say just kind of give yourself a schedule, don't burn yourself out all at once, because I found myself like, getting burnt out at work, especially when I was in architecture, getting burnt out at work. And then I get home and I don't feel like painting, or I don't feel like, drawing or doing anything. So, we're all human. So I say just trying to find the balance, find the schedule that works for you, and kind of just grow from that. Is really what I would say.
And I think the other thing I'll add is just because I get exactly what you're saying. I do feel burnt out. Right before we started, you saw all the craziness going on with Revit. So it's hard to even be like, all right, this is something I'm passionate about, but I still gotta, do my job. So I would definitely tell people, like, if you're dealing with this issue of balance, just keep going. I think you said it best when you just kept going. So I don't think people should keep looking at it as deadlines. Like, I gotta get it done by this time, or I need to make it tomorrow. But the crazy thing, you know, with my blog and even with me trying to do design on the side, freelance, none of those things were things that I went after. They came to me. You know what I mean? And it started to show me, well, the blog I went after it, but the things that came from it, you know, it's because of my consistency. It's because of the passion. It's because that I actually like this thing that I'm doing. So if you truly want something good out of it, you know, you can't rush what you want to last forever. So for people like that, I do like the fact that you're being very transparent. And, you know, I think it's good that people can see that you're in that transitional phase where it's like, okay, I'm kind of moving away from what's normal, what's comfortable, what society tells me has to be right. But then there's just this large passion that pushes me that I can't move away from, because it can be the very thing that will catapult me to the vision that I really believe is the reason I'm here. And we don't know if it's purpose. We don't know if it's just a beginning to something else. But the fact of the matter is, it brings you joy, you know?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think people who are working on the things that they really love, do it because you like it.
Yeah, definitely.
Do it because you like it.
Definitely do it. Definitely do it because you like it. And, you know, for any artists out there that are going to be listening that, you know, are struggling with that 9-to-5 balance, like I said, use the 9-to-5. Try to find something that you know, kind of can teach you something else. Try to pull something from that job, because, you know, let's be honest, we all got bills, we all have different responsibilities, whether you have kids, you know, things like that. So, you know, I understand that, you know, sometimes you got to get that check. You got to get that consistent check sometimes, because you got to pay for X, Y, and Z. I get that, but I would say just try not to put your passion on the back burner too much. Like you said, just, you know, like we've been talking about, just try to do a little bit each day or every other day. And eventually you'll get to where you want to be. I'm still working to get to where I want to, you know, where I want to be. I'm, you know, trying to gain as much exposure as I can, show my work as much as possible. But, you know, I'm still looking for a job also, you know, just because that's the time. That's the times, you know, I have responsibilities and I have things that I need to take care of. And I know that, you know, in order to continue doing this, you know, I got to, you know, fund it some way until the money starts rolling in. It's fine. And, you know, I'm just trying to work on my patience.
Good note. Good note.
Yeah.
So 2 things. 1, what are your social media handles for people who are listening and they want to get in touch with you and your work?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at Monoise, MONOISE. Monoise.com is the website. You can also reach me through that as well. Email is art, ART at monoise.com. My website has all of this as well. Facebook page is Monoise Art. But like I said, if you go to the website has all of my contact information on there as well.
Yeah. And also your portfolio of work that you've done.
Yeah. My portfolio. Well, the website is more so just the art. I do have a separate portfolio that is a compilation of everything. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to show it on the website right now. But there goes something right there. I should probably drop that on the website as well, just to give people a quick example. And I'm still working on an art portfolio as well. I want to turn it into a really nice physical book that people can order or I can hand out. So I'm still working on that.
That was part of the question. What other vision do you have? Listen, guys, whoever's listening, I don't know, but this right here is growth. This is, you know, in the moment, getting it done. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't all have this finished product. We made it, we arrived, you know? So I thank you so much, Maurice, for being here, giving me a time to pick your brain and help me with this project that I'm doing. I hope that it helps somebody.
My name is Maurice, and I have envisioned my vision.